It's lights out and away we go for the final time in 2025. And it is Tuesday with Alex Gintz and Peter Molloy and Wyatt Watson. Once again, the pit straight for the final time of the season as Lando Norris gets it done in a very uneventful, but a very, I'm about to say, very like goosebumps, like you feel like something's going to happen, but then nothing ever happens kind of race in Abu Dhabi. Like just the tension. It was a tensive race all throughout Sunday morning for us, Sunday evening, and the UAE and Abu Dhabi. Alex, good to have you on the show. Finally, done with college. The boss is done with college finally. But it was, if you got a chance to watch the race, obviously, and with Verstappen on pole, and then really the only moment of the race being Oscar Piastri, that pass on lap one, and really the only notable passing other than pit cycles and whatnot. That's pretty much the story of the whole race. Other than that, it's just Lando Norris in third place holding it down. And even with the Charles Leclerc in the background lurking and maybe keeping it tense a little bit, you still have McLaren, Papyrus, and trying to find the best result for the team as a whole to get one of their drivers a championship in that race.
Yeah, I was thinking as you started to say all that the move by Piastri is where I was going to go because, where was that Oscar Piastri for the last 8 races or so, right? And if we had a bit more of that, we might have had a bit of a different championship story lined up. I was hoping, although this hope was really short-lived and was killed in a very, very brutal manner, I was hoping that we would get a Perez 2021 moment from Tsunoda trying to make life a bit harder for the McLarens. And he tried. I wouldn't say that it was a particularly a good attempt. I'm trying to be diplomatic here, but the race itself didn't have to be especially exciting, given that we got an exciting full season picture of this championship coming down to the last race. And, props to Max Verstappen for making it as intense as he did, because there was a point during this season where many of us and Max himself was saying that really wasn't something to be concerned about.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the Yuki Tsunoda battle there too. That was just another moment where it's like, well, you could hold him up, Charles Leclerc can catch up, then maybe do something in one of the 2 straights that you can actually make a pass in, because the rest of the track, unless you have a problem and just go off track and catch a penalty or something. Another thing was also the penalty. Oh, did Lando Norris go off track to make that move? And then, well, the double move kind of eliminated that penalty anyway. Peter, I mean, from all the there's a bunch of expectations, at least for the race. But regardless, the race being how it was, you have Lando Norris now. We can finally call him the 35th different world driver champion in Formula One. That's, I mean, for Lando Norris, for McLaren as well, not having a championship since 2009 with Lewis Hamilton, if I'm not mistaken. It's such a big moment for both the Brit, and also the team and McLaren to get this done and off their chest going into 2026, which could be which could change everything for next season.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I was, I wouldn't say surprised, but I thought it was a nice thing to say was an interview with Lando Norris shortly after the race, where he applauded what Oscar Piastri did this year, which was nice, obviously, but he also acknowledged that Oscar's only been in Formula One for 3 years, and Lando has been in much longer. And the really interesting thing that Lando said was that sooner or later he's going to get the better of me, which I thought was really surprising. That's not what Formula One drivers usually say. And Lando himself has got involved in those mind games that Formula One drivers like to play with each other. He's started doing that in the second half of this year a little bit more. So I was really pleasantly surprised, I would say, that he said that after the race. And he also said, unfortunately, he's going to be my teammate for a long time longer. So that suggests to me that Oscar's definitely not out of the picture next time round. He had 2 strong races. Qatar was strong as well for Oscar. So his confidence will be back, I would say, early next year, and it'll be game on again.
Yeah, I mean, Oscar was my pick at the start of the year for the championship, and he showed out and led the majority of the season until kind of just the end of the year cut back, and Lando Norris having back-to-back great races. What was it, at Mexico, and then I forget the one he won before that. But just strong performances all around for Norris, then for Verstappen coming back and making it a fight. The biggest thing for me, though, you just look a couple of years ago, this, like, Lando Norris being at a McLaren was in question with how poor they rolled off, I think, the beginning of 2023, and being at the back of the pack. And they made the changes necessary to make those McLaren cars go very fast by the time the British Grand Prix in 2023 came around. And now coming off back-to-back constructor championships, and now finally a World Drivers' Championship, Alex. I mean, the story just of the last 3 seasons with McLaren is just, if you told me 3 years ago at the start of 2023 that this team was going to be have both their drivers compete for a title and by 2025 and be back-to-back constructors championships with Red Bull being this strong, I would have laughed in your face. There's no way.
You know, I remember being on a bus when I was working in Poland, and I was having a conversation with this British family that was sitting across from me, and we were talking about how Russell was in line to move up to Mercedes in 2022, and how that was going to be a big moment for his career, because as far as I was concerned, me personally, he was clearly the next big British talent. And this guy kind of cut me off and said, well, Norris has something going for him, doesn't he? And I thought, no, Norris doesn't have something going for him. Ricciardo just won the Italian GP on a fluke, but that team's been phoning it in since like 2014 now. So tell me with how they handled the rules change from 2016 to 17 that they're going to get 21 to 22 worked out. I was just kind of like laughing at this guy internally. But there's also something to be said for the fact that Norris has had opportunities to go elsewhere in the time that he's been at McLaren when the team has been at the back of the grid, and he hasn't. And it seems this year that he has figured out how to deal with the kind of stress-induced errors and whatnot. And it seems, I said earlier that I felt like that was an issue for Piastri as well, right? And if Piastri can just get this out of his system this year, I think he's just as fast of a driver as Norris is. If the car is anywhere close to the top of the field next year, if they get these regulations right, I think everything's fine for both of them.
Piastri said that himself. He made the point after the race that a Formula 2 F2 championship is 8 races, right? This one's 24, so it's 3 times as long. And he said that he learned a lot this year about how to be consistent across 24 races, because he's never been in a championship this long before. Lando had that experience last year against Max Verstappen. So yeah, agreed. The other thing on the McLaren point is that yes, they did a poor job at the start of this set of regulations, and then they followed Red Bull's lead, right? So a lot of what they did was taking from Red Bull, and then they actually did a better job with it eventually. So I'm interested. They do have a few new staff members. Rob Marshall, most notably from Red Bull, who's now their chief designer. So it'll be interesting to see if McLaren does get it right next year, or if it's a repeat of 22. They'll have the strong, what everyone expects will be the strong Mercedes engine power unit next year. So they won't have an engine to blame, most likely. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do another 22, or if they have actually sorted all of their design issues out.
I think a big thing too is now that they've finished top of the order back-to-back seasons, they have the funding and they have the budget probably to be in line with these new regulations and to avoid what happened in 2023. And that's a big deal for them. I mean, speaking of copying Red Bull, the other thing I'm looking at maybe for next year is Aston Martin with hiring not Helmut Marko, because we're talking about him later, but Adrian Newey, of course. Yeah. And obviously his works since his Williams designs all the way up to the RB22 have been just stunning. And the fact that they've gotten all of that technology good with Newey, now Aston Martin with him in this corner and being team principal of all things too. Like, he has the total control just about over there. So more to follow on previewing for 26 later on, though. I want to circle back to Red Bull's driver Max Verstappen, though. Yes, he fell 2 points back. Kimi Antonelli even went and apologized for the moment in Qatar that made it a 2-point race versus a tie end game, which again wouldn't have really mattered because of the Piastri angle as well. That probably would have been played by McLaren, but still, regardless of, again, he did what he needed to do, dominated Abu Dhabi. I think the sixth time in a row someone from the pole has won in Abu Dhabi. If I'm not mistaken, that was what was being said on the broadcast. If not, don't sue me. But at the same time, it's just like Verstappen did everything he needed to do the last 2 weeks, and really since the return from the summer break, if we're being honest, to claw his way into a championship. We were all talking is between McLaren, and he put his name in the hat all the way to the end, Alex. I mean, that was I think personally for me, even though he dominated in 23 and Red Bull was just an unstoppable machine, this season as a driver for Max Verstappen might be the greatest he's ever put on in his Formula One career.
Well, there's definitely something to say, I think, for how quickly Max Verstappen has kind of become like the older guy in the room. And that was the first thing I noticed when I looked at his discussion with Norris in the cool down room. He looked over at him and gave him this real shit-eating grin and went, "So how's it feel?" And that was a real moment for me where my perception of who Max Verstappen is as a person and as a driver in connection to that kind of shifted a little bit. But that's made more scary by the fact that if he wants to, he's going to be around for a long time still. I mean, he's going to be at Red Bull as long as he wants to be, as far as I can tell. They're going to let him stick around as much as he wants. And God, let's just if the Red Bull car is as good as it has been for Max in 2026 under these new regulations and is drivable for Isaac Hadjar, and it could actually be managed by a driver not named Max Verstappen, that's great for the team at large.
Yeah,
this is up there with his best season, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think just like Sergio Perez did in that season, was able to notch wins, Monaco, Saudi Arabia, and whatnot, and of course Baku, his best track ever, of course. But when you have that second guy and Isaac Hadjar getting put up, I mean, luckily now without that guy on the other team, we can finally bury his name for once and for all. But we'll talk in a little bit. But Peter, again, we've been just praising Verstappen week after week after week, and this so happened to finish with just the 2-point gap again. it blows my mind because can you think of another time in Formula One when someone came from that far back in terms of a numerical value of points or circumstances to do that, to make it a race and make it a fight for the championship to the bitter end from that far back?
I'm sure there are statistics to quote, but I can't think of them. But no, you're right. Max Verstappen has matured a lot in the last couple of years. The Max Verstappen at the start of his career, I think Nico Rosberg said that when he was still racing there and Max Verstappen was on the grid, Nico said that trying to pass Max Verstappen, trying to get past him was a 50-50 sort of move, because a lot of what Max did was just crash into people if he didn't like it. Now, he still showed a small flare of that old Max Verstappen in Spain this year when he drove into George Russell. But by and large, he's become a more mature and sensible driver now, and we don't see so much of that wild Max Verstappen anymore, which makes him even more dangerous, and he said he was he was cruising around in first place during this race, and he was just looking at the screens every time to see if something had happened with Lando Norris. And Adrian Newey referred to it as well, that drivers like Max Verstappen have this driving is almost just happening in the back of their mind, and they've got this huge amount of space in their head to be thinking about what's happening with the strategy. Where's he? They're doing all of the race strategy calculations for the pit wall as well while they're driving. I think Fernando Alonso has that ability too, and Lewis Hamilton. Those sort of top tier drivers all have that innate ability to drive the car without thinking about driving the car, and they're their heads away doing a whole lot of other calculations. It's quite incredible.
I think Fernando Alonso once said that it only takes 75% of his mind to drive the car, and he spends the other 25% thinking about the strategy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I think Lewis Hamilton is, I mean, you're exactly right on that, but I think he's using the other like quarter of his mind trying to tell Ferrari to be quiet while he's trying to drive. So they're trying to read his mind while he's like, no, let me take care of it all. But again, Verstappen with that trait too, and how and the cerebralness about it, I'm not trying to glaze him here, but like just how great he's been. I mean, 71 race wins now in Formula One, and I think he was one away from tying the record for wins in the number one with Michael Schumacher. That's incredible too, and no doubt if he comes back with, of course, the Ford powertrain in 2026, that can always change and be good for Verstappen and Red Bull. Time will tell with that. But from the guy who's been dominating in Red Bull to the guy who has abruptly been kicked out of Red Bull, has been the demon has been exercised. And Helmut Marko is gone. Yay. I mean, the circumstances behind it, I'm trying to grasp, of course, but what, Alex, I'll kick it to you. What does it mean really for Red Bull going forward now that, I mean, in the same year, I mean, now the dips in the roller coaster of Christian Horner is gone, and now new Red Bull leadership is finally fed up with Helmut Marko's antics, and he's finally been exercised out of Red Bull. What does it really mean?
Look, man. The Red Bull racing work environment has been notoriously toxic for, I mean, you would probably need more than one hand to count the number of episodes of this show that we've done about it, just trying to figure out what the voices in Helmut Marko's head have been saying that make him treat other human beings that way. But there is also a question that I cannot get over, as there were times that Helmut Marko went over the line, like when when your rookie driver crashes out in the first corner of his first race and you call his emotional reaction to that embarrassing for the team. That's not good. But at the same time, I can't help but wonder what purpose has the disciplinary inspector of Helmut Marko floating around the RB headquarters done in terms of the team's work ethic or in terms of the team's desire to perform or whatever. I don't know. I don't understand other people enough to make that call. The only thing I'll say is I don't think you can have Helmut Marko running around Red Bull unchecked in the powerful role that he was in without having an equally powerful and steadfast team principle to balance him out. And I have a strong suspicion that this is directly related to Horner leaving.
Yeah, it feels that way, doesn't? Because it's like, I think Christian Horner had the capabilities to deal with his antics, and really, it's the structure of it all in the Horner era was just, hey, like Helmut is, I mean, the blind squirrel will find the nut every now and then, and he did that with Max Verstappen. Obviously, I'm not going to criticize him for him there, or really his. I criticize him really for all like the other drivers he's canned over the years, with calling up Nick DeVries, and calling the movement for Liam Lawson all over the place, and him still persisting kind of in Formula One at the moment right now. The handling of Yuki Tsunoda, we can go on and on the rest of the episode talking about the major mistakes that we've criticized Helmut Marko for. But Peter, I mean, I don't see this anything but up with this move of getting rid of Helmut Marko, and just getting rid of the cancer. I think is a good call by Red Bull in this scenario, and briefly and abruptly rather with what happened in this case.
Look, I don't subscribe necessarily to all of the negative comments about Helmut Marko. For one, Max Verstappen said last year, "If Helmut goes, I do too." So there must be something good about the guy. The second thing was that for the last 10 years, more than 10 years, if I wanted to know what was really happening behind the scenes, I would look for a quote from Helmut Marko, because he's old school. He never spoke BS. He never played the corporate game. He never gave a 200-word corporate word salad answer like Christian Horner would. He just gave a 10-word answer, and sometimes people didn't like it, what he said, but he just spoke his mind. And I appreciated that, because he would say, we're going to win 5 races this year at the start of a season. And lo and behold, that's what happened. So, as I said, I always looked to what Helmut Marko was saying to find out what was really happening at Red Bull and what to expect from Red Bull. And I'm going to miss that, because we're just going to get corporate BS from now on, unfortunately. Look, I don't know exactly what role he played behind the scenes. He was appointed really by Dietrich Mateschitz, the original Austrian connection with Red Bull, and I don't think he necessarily got along very well with Christian Horner. Christian Horner, I think, didn't enjoy having to tidy up the mess after yet another Helmut Marko comment, which was the source of the Verstappen comment. If Marko goes, I do too. Yes. So I don't think it was due to Christian Horner leaving. I think it was more the corporate reshuffling and the Austrian wing wanting to take more control. I think the new model of race team control in Formula One now seems to be more of the McLaren model, where you've got the Zach Brown, who's the corporate boss, and he does all the corporate BS, and then you've got Andrea Stella, who's the team principal, and he doesn't handle any of that anymore. So that old team principal model is disappearing, and we've now got a corporate team, and then the team principal who doesn't manage any of that corporate stuff. Which is why I think they kicked Christian Horner out, because they wanted to move to this new model. And Helmut Marko, I think, is possibly a victim of that as well.
Yeah, among other things too, with Horner, of course, as well. But
yeah,
of course. But no, I see it, especially like I mentioned with Newey becoming the team principal, and you have Lawrence Stroll and everyone.
And that really surprised me that Newey took the team principal role, because he has said multiple times that he hates corporate bullshit. That he won't work for a team that's run by corporates. He won't work for a team that's run by a committee. So the fact that he took on a team principal, he just cares about racing. So the fact that he took on a team principal role where you have to speak all of that corporate crap really surprised me, which is why there's still a lot of speculation that the CEO position, which is vacant, might still have someone whose first name is Christian taking that position to take on all of the corporate rubbish and leave Adrian Newey to do what he does best, which is design good cars.
Honda keeps all their players.
Who knows?
Honda,
but I can't see Adrian Newey sitting in too many press conferences, put it that way.
Right. Yeah, I've wondered the exact same thing.
That's not what he does, and he doesn't want to do that. So, Zach Brown sits in a lot of the press conferences for Aston Martin, for McLaren, right? And Andrea Stella just gets on with the racing. He gives interviews and stuff after the races, but Zach Brown really does that corporate stuff. And my suspicion is that's what Aston Martin will do too. It's just who is the person that takes that role.
I mean, pretty much Aston Martin's turn. They got the Honda engine. They have Adrian Newey. And if they get Christian Horner, I mean, it's pretty much it's Red Bull without Verstappen and with Lance Stroll. And
honey, we're getting the band back together.
Yeah.
Honey, we're coming back. We're running it back with a new livery, new team. So
the boys and I have been rehearsing in David's garage when his kids aren't home, and it's going. We sound great. It's going to be way better than before. We're going to get the record deal.
Yes.
I promise we're going to win a race finally. Oh God. We'll see if Fernando Alonso is going to stick around for all that mess, hopefully. But it'll be fun to watch.
It only has to go right once.
Only once. We all pray just one time. I mean, that's the other thing too. I mean, that's the other thing too. Now we look pretty much to 2026 in a couple months, and it flies fast. Like the off season, especially as I get freaking older, it does not slow down anymore these days. So
this is the shortest off season ever as well.
Oh my!
Because they have three testing sessions. So the first test is on the 26th of January, which is super early. It's like a month before it happened this year. So they've only got 6 weeks or less, which is really short in Formula One world. So yeah, not too long until although the media is not allowed at the first test because they're expecting cars to be stricken at the side of the track with new engines not working properly and stuff. But yeah, we'll.
That's weird too. Alex,
very soon.
Alex, me and Peter have talked extensively in certain points about 2026 coming up. What's the biggest thing that you're looking forward to, at least from what we're expecting with these new regulations for 26?
Man,
it's hard to narrow it down, huh?
and I says to him, and I was like, listen here, Jack, here's the deal. And that's what I said to him. And that was and so look, I'm getting real flashbacks to the rollout of the NASCAR Next Gen car, because we're hearing a lot about the straight line speed of these new regulations is like fairy dust. It's out in the ethereal plane somewhere, and we don't know what that's going to look like. Active aero is not a massive step to take after we've had DRS for so long. we're talking again about, like, are these cars going to turn into what happened from 17 to 21, where the dirty air and the drag and the disruption they gave off just made the racing more difficult. So we've had to cut the downforce and the cornering speed down to accommodate that and whatever. And it's not as bad as the time that the NASCAR Next Gen car killed the crash test dummy all day at Talladega in across 14 separate tests or whatever. But the difficulty that F1 had getting the 2022 cars up to speed in terms of lap time as to what they are now has just kind of killed any innocence that I was holding on to about all this. And I've decided to completely forego my expectations so that I can either not be disappointed or I can be pleasantly surprised. Win-win. I've removed my skin from the game because I just don't have the engineering mind to look at all of this and go think anything other than I don't know, so I'm going to assume the worst.
Literally me and the NASCAR whatever point system coming up next year, but that's
not even real. That's a conspiracy.
It's a conspiracy on this podcast.
Just pack that sport into a box and ship it to another planet.
Ship it to the new Saudi Arabia track coming up, apparently.
Well, no, because then I have to go see it. I don't want
that. Of course, Peter.
Give us some good news, Peter.
What's the good news with this car? At least the best thing that you're looking forward to with this new regulation.
So, in terms of the racing, I do like the technical details a bit more. So, I can take that part of the conversation. The new cars will have 20 to 30% less downforce than the current cars. They will be most likely quicker in a straight line, but slower through the corners. Now, a lot of people are saying, oh, that's terrible. It's Formula One. They should be fast through the corners. But the silver lining on that is that corners that were flat out for every driver this year, some of the corners at Silverstone, etc., they will no longer be flat out, which will mean that the drivers will play a much greater role. Less downforce means you need to drive the car better to get lap time. So what that means is that the best drivers on the grid will most likely stand out more, and that's a good thing. So they will be faster out of the corners now because they'll have more battery power, more energy being delivered by the electrical system. So they expect the lap times to be maybe a second slower than they are at the moment. And, I don't think that's a bad thing. The Formula One said, and they're quite right, we could have designed the regulations to be any lap time we want. But if we set them at the same level as they are now, if we set them at that for next year, then the engineers will find a way to make them even faster, and then they'll be too fast. They'll be dangerous. So we had to start the regulations at a point that's below what they are now, on the expectation that the clever engineers in Formula One will find a way to make the cars faster, and we don't want them too fast by the end of the regulation set. So I don't have any problem with them being a little bit slower to start off. That's just natural. So the things that I'm super excited about are to see the new designs. If we remember at the start of this set of regulations, before everyone sort of converged on the same idea, we had some really wacky, cool designs. We had the zero pods from Mercedes, that had shrunken in. We had the Ferraris with the massive scoops down the sides. We had all sorts of weird and wonderful ideas. So that's always super exciting at the start of the year to see what they've all come up with. They're all working entirely in isolation. They don't know what each other is doing. They haven't had a chance to copy each other's ideas. So it's always super exciting at the start of a new set of regs to see what, and that's the great thing about a non-spec series, is that everyone's designing their own thing. So I love that at the start of a new set of regs. The other thing is super exciting, which we haven't discussed a great deal on this channel, is Cadillac.
Yeah.
We've got Cadillac coming in next year. So super excited to see how they go. No one expects them to be world beaters off the bat. But, I've been watching their YouTube channel. they've got a lot of mini documentaries going on about how they're setting the team up and stuff. So I hope they do okay. And they show some improvement. That's super exciting. Audi as well. The Audi name for the first time is appearing. Lots of and then who's going to be at the front. If one driver we didn't discuss a whole lot throughout this year, but he was always fourth or fifth, was George Russell.
Yeah.
He was always
one races too,
just behind those top three who had the better cars. So, if Mercedes has the best power unit next year, and Mercedes get their aero together, unlike at the start of this set of regs, if they don't go with the zero pods again and they come off with they come off with something competitive, we could have a George Russell fighting for the world championship next year. If the McLarens, they've got the Mercedes engine as well. So if the McLarens are in the mix, we could have George Russell, Oscar Piastri, and Lando Norris fighting for a world championship. Red Bull is coming with their own engine for the very first time. So, will it be a dog? Will they be on fire at the side of the track at every other race, or will they be competitive? There's lots and lots of things I'm looking forward to. Lots of questions I have answers. I don't have answers for yet.
I take it back, Wyatt. I'm excited.
You're excited now.
But I don't, as an American, I don't look, when I think of like quality power units and quality engines and whatnot, I don't think about Ford.
Yeah, you don't.
I don't think about any American car. For the record, my mind immediately goes to like Toyota,
unless it's super speedway for me. It's not happening. No, I mean, I drive a Ford, so I feel offended, Al. I'm just kidding.
Ask me how my opinion of you has changed in the past 3 seconds since you said that. I can make it worse.
No, there's two things.
What about you, Wyatt? What are you excited about?
There's two specific things. All those that you've mentioned, I'm very excited for. There's two other things that are on my list. One is, and we've talked about it, Williams. They've been preaching for years that we're investing into 2026. They're finishing fifth in the constructor championship. Huge for them to end this regulations in. And they of course have the Mercedes power, which is going to be preferred, as you said. Are they going to compete for podiums? I want to see that out of them next year in these new regulations. If they can get this design right that they've been working on for the last couple of years, and they're stable. They said they've forgone everything from this season, and they yet still put more podiums up for Carlos Sainz than they did for Lewis Hamilton in a Ferrari. Like, what and Alex gets smiles at that at the sound of that news. But no, I'm excited to see what comes out of that stable. Of course, they have a lot of American backing as well. They do a lot of their promotions in my home state here in Texas, which I have news on that coming up. But on my Twitter later on. But at the same time, I mean, having that for Williams is going to be interesting. And then the other thing, if I'm not mistaken, the width of the cars, they're going to be smaller than they are now, which now that opens up a whole lot of more ability to battle it out in places we probably haven't seen battles in a long time. I mean, nobody can probably still fight in Monaco, but I'm just saying, like, maybe Qatar's not as bad of a race next year. Maybe there's tracks that we like Suzuka. I think Suzuka might benefit from this new package coming next year. A lot of tracks that originally that we weren't looking at as maybe Miami might be better. I don't know. It's hard to make that track better. And I don't think the car will make that track better. But there's other tracks that can benefit greatly from this. Spa, Zandvoort, those kind of places that I want to see this new car fight at and potentially be a better product than we've been seeing in the last regulation cycle. So that's what I have my eye on going into 2026. Not that far away. Peter, thanks for telling me that. That's not that far away. Good grief.
January 26th. Yeah, so we're month and a half away, less.
Yeah. And we're a month away today from the first car reveal, I think. January 9th is when the first couple are scheduled, I believe.
Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
Those car reveals are always a bit of a waste of time.
Thank
you never see the real.
Last thing too. Thank God we're not having F-175 again. Thank the Lord.
Oh, hey, man. I enjoyed watching the rollout this year. I did. Yeah, it was a nice little.
So cheesy.
I didn't bother.
So cheesy.
It was cheesy, sure, but it was amusing. It was amusing to just kind of sit back and like soak in. And like I enjoyed the gimmick. Maybe I wouldn't enjoy it if they did it a second time, but the one time they did it, I thought it was a fun little change of pace.
It reminded me of when they introduced the next gens, or like the Hendrick Motorsport new generation reveal. Remember that with Bowman and Elliott and all that stuff? When Johnson was still in there. When Byron
retired.
When Junior retired, Bowman took over, Byron was a rookie, and Elliott was in the 9. Like whole reveal. Okay. Yeah. That's how it felt for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm having nightmare flashbacks now. But like, I'm excited to see it all over the offseason. I'm excited, especially for 2026 coming up after, again, another hallmark year, I think, for Formula One in this era that we've watched. So long, DRS. I never want to see you again. They've
got a different overtaking system.
The mom.
It's based on electrics. We'll have to wait and see how that pans out. But you might be saying bring back DRS
right
after a few races. You need to see how this works. I think Lance Stroll referred to these new cars. I know you don't necessarily respect everything that Lance Stroll says, but I think he referred to them as some kind of stupid battery experiment. So that didn't bode very well. But we'll have. But on the other hand, George Russell said with this new battery deployment system, we may see overtakes at places that there have never been overtakes before. So we'll just have to wait and see how that all pans out.
I trust George Russell's word more than Lance Stroll's on the record.
George Russell has credentials.
George Russell at least has won a Formula One race. Anyway, man, I wish we had another episode to continue this, but that'll do it.
We've made episodes about Lance Stroll. Don't worry.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, just have a random one.
They're out there. They exist.
And there will be more.
Oh, yeah. Unless something insane happens for the rest of the year, that'll do it for 2025 and the pit straight. Alex, Peter, thanks again for coming on. Follow Alex Gintz, Alex Gintz 1 on Twitter.
Yeah.
And follow Peter Molloy on all of his content on Front Stretch. Follow me at Wyatt W Racing on Twitter, Wyatt W Racing. And then stay tuned for all the NASCAR drama that continues to happen day by day. I know Steven Stump's in there right now. Michael Massey has been in there. Dalton Hopkins was in there. I don't think he's there anymore, but great coverage from that end of the side, of course. But we'll see you in 2026. That's it for the season. Thanks for tuning in every week. Congrats again to Lando Norris being the first World Drivers' Championship for him, and first since 09 for McLaren as well. 08.
09 was Braun, Wyatt. Come on.
Oh, man. See, now we got to redo the whole. I'm just kidding.
Exactly. We're starting the year over.
Got it started over. No, I'm just kidding. Have a great one, folks. Take care. We'll see you next year.